I've devised a guide, a visual guide to the wellness of sheep, which takes the form of a sliding scale of sheep's wellness, from the best you would hope to the least you can expect, from alive to dead, or as we say in the first thing, alive to dead. So the best you can hope for your sheep is for it to be stood up in the field eating grass. That's the best you can hope for. So if your sheep is stood up in the field eating grass, you know your sheep is alive. It can stand up and it can eat grass. That is the best you can hope for. Now, not as good as that is if your sheep, now you might be thinking, is if it stood up not eating grass, you'd be very wrong. No. But not as good as that, not quite as good as that, is if your sheep is sat down chewing the cud. That is the next step down. There it is, chewing the... That's a visual aid in case you don't. Sometimes it goes anti-clockwise. I don't know why. And so if your sheep is sat down chewing the cud, you know your sheep is alive. It can sit up and it can chew the cud. You know its digestive processes are working as well as you can hope for. And another way you can know if its digestive processes are working, you can look for other little clues about the possibly underneath the Wellington boot, and also give you a clue as to how well the sheep is doing. Now, not as good as that. You might be thinking is stood up, not eating, you'd be wrong. No, not as good as that is if your sheep is sat down, not chewing the cud. There it is. Now, if your sheep is stood up, sat down, not chewing the cud, you know your sheep can sit up, but you don't know how if it can chew. You don't know how good its digestive processes are working. You also don't know it might be lame. You might have a lame sheep here. Now, to find out if your sheep is lame, you must creep up behind it subtly. Now, you don't want it. Don't do it if your mother or the local police officer is watching. They might think you're up to your old tricks again. Now, unless your mother's there with the police officer, in which case your mother's up to her old tricks again. So you creep up behind the sheep and go, wake up sheep, and it jumps in the air. Now, if it runs off on 4 feet, you know your sheep is not lame. If it runs off on 3 feet, you know your sheep is lame. But you won't be able to do it because a sheep running off on 3 legs is faster than you on 2 legs. So you won't be able to, at least you know your sheep. If your sheep jumps up and runs off on 2 legs, film it and getting on Britain's Got Talent. Now, not as good with going down to the bottom of the scale. It's a bit of a worry now. If the next thing is your sheep is stood up, not chewing the cud. Now, if your sheep is stood up, not chewing the cud, you know your sheep is alive. You know it can stand up. You don't know if it can chew the cud. You don't know if it's lame. But you do know that your sheep is unwell. Now, if your sheep is unwell, you have 2 choices. You can either let it be, you can leave it as it is and let nature take its course. Now, at which time it'll either be better, the same, or dead in about 4 weeks. Or you can call a vet. You can call a vet, could give you an expensive pattern of medication, in which case your sheep will be better, the same, or dead in about 28 days. Now, we come to the worst, the lowest expectation. Your sheep is dead. And at which point, there's no option. You must call the Ministry of Agriculture Designated Sheep Carcass Removal Service. Now, the Ministry of Agriculture Designated Sheep Carcass Removal Service will come and remove the carcass of your dead sheep in about 2 to 3 months. If it's summertime, your sheep will have made its own arrangements. Now, if you live by a river, if you're fortunate to live, you will never have to call the Ministry of Agriculture Sheep Designated Carcass Removal Service, because you can give your sheep a Viking burial. Quite often you don't need to buy the ship or the flammable. You can just set your sheep sailing away on the water. And now that is, there you are. Unfortunately, they are. You don't know is your sheep dead or is it a cloud in the sky? You don't know. Now we come to the storytelling part. Is there storytelling part in this? There is. For the last few months, there have been 2 sheep living in Bream on the crossroad. You might have seen them, Gav. Two sheep, have you? Two sheep on the verge at Bream Cross. And I've noticed about a month ago that somebody did this to the sheep. Now, these sea people are keen on upholding British traditions, aren't they? When I saw this, the most British thing I've ever done, I went... and I thought, oh, well, we know what happened. But then I noticed there are two sheep, and I noticed the other sheep, that they live there perfectly happy on the verge after... I thought, what a fine example of a multicultural society that is. Thank you, what a marvellous, hurrah! Yeah. And then I noticed they walked off together they walked uphill, and I noticed I got the situation entirely wrong. Someone had just marked the sheep, and 4 sheep of the same colour, and they marked it like that. So I thought, phew. I thought, but wait a minute, where are the other 3 white sheep? And I went past Bream's Cross, at the cenotaph, and they were. And so that's my guide to the wellness. My advice is, don't go anywhere near the woolly buggers. They're too much hard work. And thank you, good night.